Welcome back to the Morning Grind, RotoGrinders. It's not Stevie. You guys are still stuck with Dean. Of course, Stevie is busy doing his NASCAR content. That said, we are going to continue our series of our DFS personality showcase, and I am super, super excited to bring in our next person. And it's funny because a couple people said to me, like, why has Cheese not done this? Oh, spoiler alert, it's Dave Potts. It's Cheese. We'll talk to him in a second. But, yeah, I was like, I didn't want to, go to him right away, and there's no sort of, I'm not playing favorites. And I also – as I said to him before the show, I didn't want to blow it. I want to get better at this because Dave, Cheese, you deserve the best possible interview that we can do. And if this is bad, just know the other ones are distinctly worse. What's up, Dave? Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I'm excited to know that. As long as the others are worse, I don't care if mine is bad. That's how I feel about my DFS lineups. Mine can be as bad as they want to be, as long as someone else's is worse.
It's a good general life philosophy, I suppose. We've interviewed so many people so far. If you guys want to check out the YouTube channel, they're all on there. Most of them are on there. They're also, of course, in the podcast feed as well. Blender, STL Cards, Kevin Roth, Fast Eddie Fear, Rusty Nuts, That's a Person, Head Chopper, Andy Means. You know Andy pretty well.
I do.
EMAC. Remember once upon a time you guys had the EMAC and Cheese show for a week or two?
That was the intro for that was classic.
Was that Devin's work? I don't know. Maybe Devin or Simon, one of those two.
I think it was somebody else.
Oh.
Not that Devin couldn't do it.
I wanted to talk about how, you're a two-time winning, millionaire winner and one of the best baseball minds in the world. But, I think this takes precedent. The news just broke before the show. Carol Baskin is now on Cameo. And I mentioned this to you pre-show, and you were like, I don't know what any of those words mean. Which is fabulous.
I know. I know who Carol Baskin is.
Okay.
I don't know what Carol Baskin is on Cameo has to do with me and you talking about whatever we're talking about.
Really,
this is wonderful.
Cameo is a service where you can basically hire a subjectively D-list or C-list celebrity, basically to give a shout out to your friend and say hey, happy birthday to my friend so and so. He's a big fan of Tiger King, and you're innocent. I don't know, but yeah, basically you can hire a celebrity to sort of give you a shout out to your friend. And
really,
yeah, it's a great service.
Is fantastic. Am I available on there to do cameos for people?
Well, I'm not kidding. You're at the level, if not higher than the level, than some of the people on there.
That's something that just hearing about this for the first time, we could probably do this. Yeah, we should have a DFS cameo thing, however the thing works. I would love to say happy Arbor Day to your friend, or hey, it's the 17th of June, your favorite day, or just happy Wednesday.
Yeah, and some people do it for charity, some of the celebrities do it for charity. And the amazing thing about Cameo is it's so incredible what some celebrities are asking for versus what some other celebrities are asking for. It's a fun game to play because it's really hard to predict. Side note, we did do one of these for Travis Mangone, myself and Grant. It was a losing. He lost a bet on a podcast from last year. We had Chris Hansen give him a shout out. I'm sure you can imagine where that went.
Now, what are you paying these people to do it? So I don't understand. The whole concept is brand new to me, and I love it already. I would probably do it for you owe me an ice cream in the future.
We paid Chris Hansen $50 to give Mangone a shout out, essentially. And depending on the celebrity stature, and again, some of these celebrities do it for charity. Flavor Flav, $250. You like Flavor Flav? You can have him give you a shout out for $250.
That's a steal at any price, really.
I don't know why this is where I'm starting. Jeez, how rude of me.
What a great interview. I'm glad that you got the bad ones out of the way with other people.
You should hear the previous conversations we've had. Of course, Dave Potts, you're in the two-time millionaire club in DFS, which is a very exclusive club. I don't know. Imagine that's 2 or 3 people. I know Gio recently did it.
I think there's 4 or 5 now, maybe.
Okay.
We haven't met in a while, but it's fun. It's fun when we get together.
It's like the 5 Jacket Club at the SNL. Is that kind of basically how you
Something
guys?
Like that, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So baseball, I presume baseball and music. Those are your 2 loves as a child. Has that always been something in your life?
Yeah, it was really music kind of first, and then just sort of all sports. Baseball, I was actually more of a baseball card collecting fan than a baseball fan as a kid. My brother and I collected cards, mostly in the 80s. And that's kind of how I collected cards before I probably ever watched a baseball game. But then we would go like early 80s, Denver. I lived in Denver, and they had a team called the Denver Bears, minor league team for the Expos. So I remember going to games there, and then I played Little League baseball and all that. But
what are
really,
the Expos? What are the Expos?
I do not know. I believe we're recording this on Canada Day. So
Shout out Canada.
Happy one of those to whoever cares about that.
Sports cards are making a comeback now. I mean, I'm actually hosting. I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
I know. This is crazy.
On RG. Chief is into it now. Simon, one of our producers, is into it. There's a Discord channel where people are over it. And like, if you look at sort of like the value of cards, it's been skyrocketing the last couple of years. And of course, I'm with you. I had a lot of cards in the 80s and the 90s that have turned to trash. Like, I still have like 1987 Topps cards, just like in like couch cushions. I think
we all have 1987 Topps cards.
Do you remember like your favorite card or your best card or anything that kind of sort of stood out to you? Everybody loved the Griffey Upper Deck #1, of course. That's one that kind of pops for people. But anything kind of stand out to you?
I remember just completely randomly, I collected Jim Palmer. I wanted every Jim Palmer card, an old pitcher for the Orioles, if you're not an old person. And I did eventually get every Jim Palmer card. So that's a thing.
Why was he your guy? You're living in Colorado. Why do you care about Jim Palmer?
No reason. I mean, it was just like, I got a card of his. I was like, that's cool. And they had cool hats. And it's like, I'm going to get all those. There was no rhyme or reason to hardly anything I did.
When you live in Colorado, who's your team? Do you have a team growing up, or it's like the local minor league team?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I never really had a favorite baseball team until the mid-90s Indians. Is the first time I really had a favorite team. The closest thing to it would have been the Twins teams in the 80s, because both my parents were from Minnesota. My grandparents were from Minnesota. So we did go to Twins games up there. That was kind of like the 87 Twins. That was kind of my first kind of bandwagon team because I had some sort of connection to them.
Kirby Puckett and Kent Herbeck.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's other guys that they're not coming to my head for some reason. But
Frankie Viola.
There you go, Frank Viola. That garbage bag in the outfield that ridiculous wall they had. It's kind of silly in the Metrodome, but
but I really never had it, and even kind of still don't. I mean, I'm an Indians fan, and I kind of root for the Braves because they're kind of the local team-ish to me now. But like, I don't have this diehard baseball fan thing like I do with other sports.
That was a good team to latch onto, by the way. The Cleveland team in the 90s with Baerga and Bell and Lofton. That was a fun team.
Those teams were great. Jim Thomey's still my all-time favorite baseball player. Apologies to Matt Carpenter, but Jim Thomey's the man. It's
wild, Tomei. Nobody's ever, to my knowledge, like, they accuse everybody, like a blanket statement, and some for good reason, of steroids in the 90s. To my knowledge, Jim Thomey was always, what they call him, like country strong or something like that.
Corn-fed, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there was ever any allegations on him. I don't know if there was or wasn't.
I think everyone just knew he was big and strong and don't mess with him.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Where is he on the ultimate? Like 550? He's got a bunch, doesn't he? As far as
he's up there. I mean, I don't know how many people have passed him now, but yeah, he was over 500.
Yeah. For some reason, he's one of those guys. At least maybe just in my brain, he kind of sort of gets lost in history. By the way, I was going to ask you this later, but now that we're on it, sure. Bonds Hall of Fame.
Yes. This is all so goofy. It's so dumb. Like, what are we doing? This goes into so many categories of the world, but what is anyone doing anymore? Like, it's like, you can't put the best hitter of all time in the Hall of Fame because he did steroids. That's great. Fine. Let's not have anyone in there from now on. It
is pretty silly, right? McGuire? Can we say McGuire?
Yeah.
And Sosa.
I think McGuire and Sosa belong in. They're not as, like, that's not the dumbest thing ever that they're not, like the Bonds thing, but yeah, they're Hall of Famers.
Like, Bonds was in before, like, 2001, I think. Right. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, little skinny Bonds from the 90s was probably a Hall of Famer.
It's funny because Bonds, when I was a kid, and speaking of sports collecting cards, I remember collecting Bonds and Bonilla cards on Pittsburgh, and they were kind of sort of the same guy in my head, and I probably wasn't that sharp a kid, but I didn't think of, like, Bonds was distinctly better than Bonilla. And of course, he separated himself years later. And fun fact,
Bonilla was pretty great.
Day? It's Bonilla Day today also.
It is, yes. What a big day we're doing this on. Canada Day, Bobby Bonilla Day.
Tell the people what Bonilla Day
all
is.
Kinds of things.
They might not know. Tell the people what Bonilla Day is.
So I don't know the details of the contract, but like Bobby Bonilla had this contract where he gets paid like every year until like we're all like 90. Do you know the year that it ends?
I don't know. I think it's like $2 million a year for like 25-year contract.
I was going to say it's like 2035 or something. Yeah, Devin confirms 2035. Like he gets paid every year. That's a good gig if you can get it.
What a great!
I don't think he's still playing.
I don't think so either. They can't. I mean, why not? Sure. I'm curious to get your thoughts as far as what you expect as far as the season coming up. Hey, you know what? Sure. Let's talk about that. We'll get to everything else, of course. But you are a great baseball savant. But like, how are we supposed to like even project anything when what are we looking forward to in this 2-month sprint, presuming they play 2 months worth of baseball?
This is so weird. I mean, I don't even know what to make of any of it. Like as a guy who started as a season-long player, and that's still kind of my first love, like season-long fantasy baseball. Like that's just not a thing. I mean, yeah, we're playing now this year, but I mean, I don't know why. Like no one knows what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how this affects anything. Once we start playing, are we still playing the next week? How many players are going to get sick and stop playing? Does one injury just end your year? I mean, I think it's fine for DFS and kind of well set up. I'm going to enjoy playing, and it's going to be nice to get back to, writing about the day's slate and all that. But to me, this is much more I think it's goofy to try to project what's going to happen, either as far as team performance, individual performance, or, if and how long they play. Do players play every day? Are there more injuries, less injuries? It's all such an unknown. I'm really not trying to figure it out. And for DFS, we don't need to. We need to go with that day. And that's why I think this season is better suited as a DFS season for me.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at as well, too. And like the trade deadline, it's going to be like, well, did we win today? I guess we're buyers. Did we lose today? I guess we're sellers.
It's fun. I guess if I were like a diehard fan of one of the bad teams, like a Tigers fan or just some team that's never really there anymore, like every team has a chance this year. Like really every team.
Sample size, yeah.
Yeah. I mean the Marlins or the Orioles or the Mariners, like these teams could make it. And you can't really say that in a full season. So I guess, good for them. And I'd rather, like, if they have even kind of a weird little chance, like, I hope they just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? And is there an asterisk on this season of the champion in your mind?
Yeah, but not really. I mean,
and half of one?
Yeah, like once the season is over, like nobody cares anymore anyway. Like you get to wear the shirt of your team being champions forever. Like there's no asterisk on your t-shirt unless you put one there. So to me, not really.
Are they more or less champions than the 94 Expos?
Much more. Sorry on Canada Day.
Yeah, you taking any shots at Mount. How fun was that team, by the way? And just a side note, Grissom, who you met, I was going through your Twitter for prepping. Your old friend Marquise Grissom, Donald the Shields, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez. I buried the lead, right? Oh, Larry Walker.
Yeah, Larry Walker. Man, that guy was good. Yeah, that season would have been great to play out and see what happened. That team was loaded. Yeah, Larry Walker. Speaking of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was hated by Coors Field, so we really can't.
Right. He was one of those guys that, like, if you weren't playing fantasy baseball, and that was kind of before, like, his prime was before a lot of people were playing fantasy. Like, he was just great at everything.
Oh, yeah. He was awesome. None of those players, at least maybe it's just my brain. He kind of gets lost in history. I don't think about him very often, but once you
he doesn't get mentioned in that top tier, but he was phenomenal.
High school, you're more focused on music. You're more focused on sports.
I graduated. Yeah, was that where we were going?
Congratulations.
Barely.
What are we doing? Are we playing music all through your teen years? Do we have gigs on the weekend? How does that work?
Yeah, so when I was I guess it was 9th grade, 8th grade is when I started writing songs, like pretty seriously. 10th grade-ish is when I started playing like open mics. And then 11th grade, I recorded my first cassette. If the young crowd knows what that means. It was before a CD, which was before however you consume music now. So yeah, 11th grade, I recorded my first, we'll call it an album. And started playing like coffee house gigs. Yeah. So like 11th and 12th grade, I was playing a lot of like little coffee house gigs, recorded a couple albums, had written a couple hundred songs. None of them were necessarily good, but I was living and breathing music at that time.
You're getting your reps in though, right? Like, is that Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's like anything else. I mean, you got to get through the figuring out how to do it before you get good at something.
Who inspired you? Who are your musical inspirations?
The earliest one is John Denver. That's how I started playing guitar. My mom was a huge John Denver fan. So like my first songbook was John Denver's Greatest Hits. And I kind of learned my way through guitar playing through that. Played Grandma's Featherbed in the first grade talent show. Apparently I did fine. And still, I mean, I still love John Denver now. He was sort of the first big influence.
Yeah, and Rocky Mountain High, like you're in Colorado, and isn't that like his? I mean, I'm not a John.
Yeah, that's sort of his famous hit.
Right?
And yeah, so yeah, and we used to go camping in Aspen, which is where he lived at the time. And I mean, like I felt this. I have this John Denver connection, and we would see him at Red Rocks every summer. And so yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Is that the coolest venue, Red Rocks? I've heard about it, but I've never been.
It's pretty great. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. If you're a music person, a concert person, you should try to go sometime.
Yeah. Hopefully those happen soon, by the way.
Yeah, don't go like this week or next week, but
well, nobody's going to be there, I don't think. Well,
no.
Actually, it's not necessarily true. It depends on where you live. I saw there was some country artist in Tennessee that had a big old crowd, but I don't know. Well, I digress. Yeah. So, by the way, I saw your baseball hacks. I assume you tried to play. You attempted to play baseball, maybe in high school or in sort of.
I mean, just little league, like until I was about 11 or 12. I actually played. In high school, my main sport was tennis, but prior to that, I played ice hockey. I was a goalie, and we're talking like, playing started when I was 5 till I was about 12. So, but it was a pretty, serious pursuit relatively for a young human. We drove all around the state playing hockey, and I loved it. It was fun.
I not to date you or anything, but I've seen some older footage of like hockey equipment for goalies. And it looks pretty like the technology is advanced, and some of it looks like it's pretty dangerous to be a goalie back in the day.
Yeah, and especially if you were like on a very low budget. We were just going to the used, hockey garment store and getting like whatever pair of pads you could find. Like, and there were. It was really hard to get every little area covered. Like, I had this weird little piece of hard plastic covering so I wouldn't get hit in the neck with a puck, and because you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And there was like, I never quite had my whole like side. If I would get hit like right in the side, I'd be out for a while. But I made it. Here I am. That's probably why I quit when I was 12. Because once you start getting up to like high school, like with that equipment, I would still be black and blue.
Al McGinnis is like the 110-mile-an-hour slap shot or something like that. I imagine that would hurt pretty good.
Yeah. You feel it. Even when like 10-year-olds are shooting at you, you can feel it.
By the way, you mentioned tennis. Aren't you I don't know, maybe in your age division, like a tennis champion in Alabama? Is that not a thing?
I was until a couple of years ago. Tennis champion. I was a very good tennis player who played on on some teams that won some state titles for adult age group.
How do you get involved in that? It's just so you want to stay active and you found something through the internet or something like that?
Like I played real seriously in high school, and then I quit for a while. For about actually 10 years after high school, I didn't really play. And then after I moved here, I picked up playing again, and we have some leagues, and you just sort of get involved. And then I got kind of serious about it again before I hurt my back a couple of years ago. And now I've been completely out of it for a while, hoping eventually I can get back to it.
Well, I was just talking to Dan, DB. He says he's playing some tennis, so maybe when you get healthy, you'll challenge him and give him a reality check.
Yeah. Yes, I would beat Dan. I don't need to see him play. I can tell you I would beat Dan Bach.
You don't need to see any tape.
I do not need to see the tape. But it's a really good sport for older-ish people and younger people like Dan and older like myself. I'm hoping I get back out there soon. I had back surgery last December, so I'm still just learning how to walk.
Oh man, well, hopefully you're on the road to recovery. Is that something you can fully recover from? But I guess it's sort of case.
Yeah, it is. It was not serious. I mean, it was just like the herniated disc. So yes, I should. The doctor says I will be playing tennis again shortly. But he's younger than I am, so.
You're ruled out for this Major League Baseball season since it's a 60-gamer?
Yeah, I opted out. I've not sent my letter yet, but I will not be there.
After high school, did you hit the road to play some music? How'd that go down?
Yep. So I went to college for 1 year and majored in music. But I knew what kind of music I wanted to do. And in college, you're majoring in either like classical or jazz. So I did the jazz. Like I played in jazz band and all that stuff. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I knew what I wanted to do. So after my freshman year of college, It was actually my mom's idea. I never thought about not going to college because people just did that. My mom noticed I was not particularly happy, and she's like, you don't have to go to college. And I was like, all right, I'm out. And I hit the road. This was like 1995-ish. And I just started, this was before the internet, and it was really hard to find gigs, but I found gigs all over the country. I would like go to the library and check out a phone book and start calling coffee houses and be like, you don't know me, but you guys do music there? And I would, book like 3 little coffee houses in wherever, Chicago, and drive to Chicago and play gigs.
That's wild.
That for a long time. It was,
and each phone call
so
costs
fun.
you find a phone book, which again, the only thing we have to explain to the kids what a phone book is, and a phone booth, I imagine, which is another thing that no longer really exists. Maybe like in a mall or something.
Yeah. When I think about now what I did and try to explain it, like, the long distance bill, like on my taxes, I had to write out every, I was adding up, okay, it took me 23 cents to talk to her. And, I would get the phone bill and write, this was music calls. And then I have this big book with numbers. And when I'm on the road, I would have to pull over and find a phone book to call a venue to like confirm a gig. And that really happened.
And what was the success rate with that? Like you would just, it'd take 1 in 10 as far as, and sometimes maybe you show up and they forget who you are, or like, is it like, oh, wait, that's not happening, or we already booked this, we didn't really know you were coming.
Well, I ended up pretty quickly getting pretty good at follow-up, and I would, because that happened a lot. Because a lot of times, especially if it's like a coffee house or a small little venue, like the person who books the music in March might not be working there in May when you show up. And that was kind of the biggest problem. It wasn't that they were trying to do anything wrong, just like they just like switched music people and the guy threw away his book.
There's a lot of turnover.
Yeah. So I would, after I booked something, I would send out flyers, and I would call like a month ahead and like a week ahead. So I got pretty, because if you're driving like to the middle of nowhere and you have like one gig in like, Bloomington, Indiana, and you don't want to just show up and not have one. So,
well, if you're going to Bloomington, you got to like try to hope to get some along the way and some of the surrounding parts, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was, it was so much fun. And even thinking about it, like I would book a gig. So I lived in Denver at the time. I would, book a gig in Kansas City, and get one in Columbia, Missouri, get one in St. Louis, and get one in Indiana, then get one in Cincinnati, just kind of move my way city to city. And over the course of I did overall for about 15 years, but even in the first like 10 years, I had played in 42 states, I think.
Wow.
I got to say, that was kind of my way to see the country and just do what I wanted to do. And it was great.
What's like how do you make it just one thing? Like, what's the coolest thing about jumping from state to state and just seeing, like, I love, just seeing the little intricacies, little like nuances that each state has to offer. Like, how do you, you probably, if I can name a state, if I name Iowa, you can give me a story about Iowa.
Yeah. And it's the places like that I love the best. Like so Iowa City, like I would busk on the street in Iowa City. That's where the University of Iowa was. And then a lot of times when I was playing at a coffee house, I'd usually find somewhere to stay, like someone who worked there would let me stay with them or something. Like, what you got paid for a coffee house gig didn't do much for getting a hotel room. So, but in Iowa City, I remember busking out on the street. I played at this coffee house that was also an ice cream store. It was ice cream store downstairs, coffee house upstairs. If you know me, that's
your wheelhouse right there.
And then I camped out in this state park, like 10 minutes north of Iowa City. And I remember waking up, it was like super misty all around, and there were deer running all over the place. And I was wondering why no one else was camping there, but I thought it was perfect. I guess it was cold. But
what is the most random place you ended up sleeping at?
Well, sometimes, okay, I guess I should point out that for 6 or 7 years, I had a pickup truck with a camper shell on the back, and I would sleep in that. I had my PA system on one side of it, and then I had like a sort of a mat with a sleeping bag on top of it. So I'd sleep in the back of the truck and wherever, usually in some park somewhere, but sometimes it would be like a rest area or a hotel parking lot, the Village Inn parking lot, because then you wake up and there's your coffee. So that was pretty common.
A PA system, is that like a breaker or is
a sound system? So I had my own, like a lot of these places didn't have a sound system, so I carried my own speakers and microphone and amplifier, all that stuff.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, and you were a one-man band, correct?
Correct. Just, me and the guitar.
That's so wild. Do you ever look back and just say like, wow, I did that for 15 years? And that's just so ambitious to do. And just, you must have a ridiculous collection of stories as well. And just, again, I just threw out Iowa and all of a sudden, here you go. I can mention Kentucky, and you got something in Kentucky for me.
I do. Yeah.
That's so cool.
But yeah, when I look back on it now, it's kind of crazy that I did that. I'm so glad I did, and I loved it, and I love thinking about it, but I would not want to do it now at all. Like it's definitely a young man's game. I mean, I know people that are my age or older that I knew from them that are still doing it.
Yeah.
And that's great. I kind of lost the passion for, traveling and playing every night. But I'm so glad I did it. It was amazing.
I mean, you're also at a different spot in life now. You have a family. I mean, I'm sure I would imagine that changes things. And man, you want to be home, and you just want to relax. You want to eat your ice cream, and you want to watch your baseball, and there you go. I imagine. I'm not telling you what you tell me. Is that what you want to do?
Right. I definitely want to eat my ice cream. And sometimes when you're traveling and like staying with different people, they may or may not have the kind of ice cream you want. And then you feel bad. Like, am I supposed to tell them what kind of ice cream I want them to have for me? That's a little ambitious. So
you don't have a writer that's like demands, a certain flavor.
I wasn't at that point yet. Although, one of the things that is still kind of a thing is house concerts. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, but people would put on concerts in their house, invite their friends, and they would often be, very much, what can we get for you? We'll make you any meal you want. Tell me what you want. And if it was people I kind of got to know, I would be like, yeah, I would like some Ben & Jerry's. Give them some flavors. And
what's your go-to Ben & Jerry's flavor?
New York Super Fudge Chunk.
Okay.
Is there
even a bad one? Is there a bad Ben & Jerry's flavor?
No, it really isn't. Fish food would be my second favorite.
Okay, yeah. Are you a fan of the band Fish, or you just like the taste of the ice cream?
No, I just like the food. When I first had the ice cream, I assumed it was like the swimming things that it was about, because there are little fish in there, like with an F, fish. That band, I don't understand that band. Like, at some point the song's got to be over.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Like, I've never heard you like say a bad thing about basically anything. And like, who's an overrated band? You're probably not going to give me an answer. You're going to dance around it. You're not going to get any so-called shots at anybody. And like, we had this conversation before with somebody else. Like, you're always like one of the nicest guys in DFS. You're on the Family Feud board. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
I didn't know there was a Family Feud board.
We surveyed 100 people, and it was a dig. Somebody said cheese, and there you go. You're on the board. But Fish, yeah, I'm with you. I don't get it. I know sometimes you partake in some sort of activities while listening to Fish, or some people do.
I think that's one of those. They're like a lifestyle band. You have to like be there and like, be at the concert with your friends and, dancing around in that weird sort of spinny way. And then you would love it. I don't really do that spin around arms in the air dance. That's probably what's missing. It's probably not the music. It's probably on me.
I was listening to you on Spotify today, and I think you're talking about this. Sometimes the song has to end, and I'm like, I think most of your songs are pretty concise, I want to say. Like, they're not like 5-6 minutes long. Yeah,
they are now. Early on, that's part of the process of learning how to write songs. Like, early on in my career, I would have a lot of songs that were 5 or 6 minutes. There wasn't 5 or 6 minutes worth of material. It was just like, let's do another verse and tell a story that doesn't really tell anything. So over time, you kind of learn how to whittle it down. And there's a reason most songs are 3.5 minutes. So that's how long they need to be for the most part.
Not surprisingly, you have multiple songs about baseball, which is, I caught those as well. And of course, on Crunch Time, famously, you've done some timely, songs. Just on, how long does it take to write those? Like when you write your Reese Hoskins homages and you just throw in RG personalities and things like that.
So it's basically the day of a show. I'll decide, I got to do a song, and I'll spend about an hour. As soon as when I figure out what song I want to sort of go off of it, I usually spend about an hour just kind of throwing something together.
Is it like riding a bike? Is it a skill that just doesn't leave you as far as writing a song? I mean, I imagine you're not doing it nearly as much these days, or you still have it. It's in your bag. Yeah, and I still so the one thing I do to stay musically active is I teach some songwriting lessons at a local music store. Like, they have a summer camp where the kids come and they put them in bands, and they'll learn some songs and then write a song together. So I'll go teach them how to write songs. So that keeps me sort of creative. So I don't want it. You don't really forget how to do it, but it's still good to practice. So I do write a little bit here and there. Did your kids show interest? Did they want you to teach them anything as far as music? No,
they went through all kinds of things. I mean, they had little music phases. I mean, they took piano for a year here, or, a drum lesson for 3 weeks here and a guitar for a week here, but music was just kind of never their main thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. And they probably heard it around the house. It just didn't take for whatever reason.
Yeah. Other hobbies just sort of took over more. My son liked sports more. My daughter was into dancing and then horseback riding. And they had their things. Music just kind of missed their cut.
By the way, get back to ice cream for a second. Give me power rank. Give me your top 3, top 4 ice cream flavors. Not Ben and Jerry's, because those are so super specific, but like general standard, like cookies and cream, butter pecan. What's on the board there for you?
I mean, general standard, I would still just go with plain old chocolate.
Oh.
And then plain old vanilla. Like they're standards for a reason. Like, but butter pecan would probably be the next sort of interesting-ish standard that I like. I mean, I like everything though.
This is unfortunate, Cheese, because I know you've won a couple $1 million, and I was gonna hit you up. I had an idea for an ice cream shop. I was looking for an investor. So Neapolitan ice cream, it's chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. And I think it's absurd that's why is that who delegated that these are the 3 ice creams you need 1/3 of, 1/3 of, 1/3 of, and why can't I get 1/3 of cookies and cream, 1/3 of butter pecan, and 1/3 of like mint chocolate chip? Why isn't that an option?
Well, that is an option at an ice cream store because you get it by the scoop. You get a scoop of each. It's very much an option, Dean. But I guess you're saying you should be able to go to the store and buy this in a box. Is that?
I just want to create my own. I want to create my own Neapolitan. Don't put me in a box. And I don't want chocolate. And some people, they knock out the chocolate, they knock out the vanilla, and they just throw out a 3rd strawberry. Nobody wants the strawberry.
Right. That's incorrect. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely on board with a create your own trio.
Yeah.
You have my support.
There you go. I appreciate it. Oh, man.
I feel like that was a big moment. I've officially given you my support for your new pick your own 3 flavors.
I thought that was a universal, like across the board, not just ice cream related, but that's not, I shouldn't interpret it any other way outside of ice cream, I suppose.
Correct.
I was getting
just the one thing.
So season-long baseball is like where are you? Like I don't know all the great season-long baseball players. You've been playing in what is it, Fab and all those. You tell me the names of them as far as the season.
What is it, Fab? Is Fab? What are you talking about? That's free agent bidding. Yes,
well,
that's a term.
Yeah, I no longer have your support. What is, what I'm talking about? I always see these initials and these letters, and you go to Vegas and you go to Arizona and you go all over the place and pick your season-long teams.
Yeah, it's actually very much like DFS. It's this niche group of people that, like, if you're in that industry, like, all the terms and everything just makes sense. But if you're a little bit outside of it, like, what are these people talking about? It's very similar to DFS in that way. But yeah, I've been playing season long since 1999, and started playing really seriously in the, 2006-07 range. So yeah, like the biggest season long leagues are the NFBC, where I go out to Vegas, not this year, but every other year we go to Vegas and do drafts. They have drafts in New York and Chicago as well. And that's sort of like, usually when you see people on Twitter talking season-long fantasy baseball, it's usually centered around NFBC, and when they're talking about Fab, they're talking about who are you going to pick up as a free agent in the NFBC this weekend, or other leagues, industry leagues, things like that.
Yeah, like most of my season long is just like my idiot friends from high school. We just keep playing, and I've never done I shouldn't call it the tout wars. All these initials you're kind of throwing out there, and but of course we know you. Well, I know you. I shouldn't say we. A lot of people know you from a variety of things, but I know you from DFS, and you won $1 million in, I believe, 2014 at the famous FanDuel final, where the water main went down in Colorado. Of course, the Colorado game was canceled. Why? Well, first of all, take me through the sweat of getting there. Were you playing DFS a ton before that? Did you just sort of discover DFS and all of a sudden, hey, I'm at a live final? How'd that go down?
So I'd been playing DFS a little bit from the very beginning, like 2008 or 2009, even before there was a FanDuel. Fantasy Sports Live was the first site I played on. I believe it was 2008. And I played a little bit on kind of every little site that popped up for a month here and there. I played on at some point, but not super seriously, just kind of a little bit here and there. I was pretty high up on like the early leaderboard of that Fantasy Sports Live, which as far as I know is the first real site that did it. But, in like 2010, 11, 12, when like FanDuel popped up, and then when DraftKings came along, like I was just a guy who played mostly cash games without taking it real seriously. Like I wasn't, mapping out my bankroll or what I'm going to play each day. If I didn't, some days I'd play, some days I wouldn't, some days I'd research, some days I'd just click some buttons. In 2013, I started taking it a little more seriously. And then 2014, it's actually kind of ties in with the NFBC. So we were drafting NFBC in Vegas, and FanDuel sent some reps out there because that was the first year they were offering the $1 million final for baseball. And so I was talking to the FanDuel guys out there about it, and I was like, $1 million for fantasy baseball. I should probably actually try this for real. So I put some money in that just to use for qualifiers for FanDuel with the sole intent purpose of getting to that exact final. And I won a qualifier pretty early on. I think it was April or May on Zach Greinke day. And
do you remember the sweat? Are you watching it? Are you
so
have like your
I remember
phone in your hand the whole time, or what?
I remember that whichever game, I don't remember the specific game of bats that I had like two guys on each team that did well, but we went out to eat Japanese food, and on the TV at the bar when the scores rolled around the bottom, that game was like 12-10. I saw three of my guys pop up with home runs. I was like, well, that could actually be interesting. And then it was like the last game of the night was Greinke pitching. And it basically came down to if he got the win, I win. If he got a no decision, I would lose. And ended up like got the win by 1 run. So that was kind of the first ever like sweat I had, where I remember like actually watching a scoreboard of a DFS game.
Take me to the live final, Cheese, because of course this was the famous one where Coors Field, there was a water main break. I don't think there was any late lock, so you couldn't swap. So once you're kind of locked in, you're locked in, and you did not have anybody at Coors, I don't believe, and you ended up winning the live final there. What was that room like when the Coors game was canceled? And were you like secretly fist pumping when you realized you had nobody in Coors, and that was somewhat of an advantage for you?
I mean, everything about that was so surreal. Like, I mean, for the first part, like, I was not a DFS personality at that point. Like, nobody knew who I was. It was a lot of the usual characters at that time that all kind of knew each other, and I was just this random guy. Nobody had any idea who I was or why I was there. I do remember, like, the first person who ever came up and just said hi to me was STL Cards. Actually, he was in that. So good for him. Thank you. Nice old Justin. Then I met DB and Cam. They were sort of doing I don't know, that's when they did live coverage of the finals. But so, my team started doing really well right off the bat. Like David Ortiz hit a home run, a couple of other Blue Jays guys did some things. And then the Coors Field game was kind of on a side TV, and it started like an hour later than the other games. And like 10 minutes before the game starts, there was no sound on, but they just kept showing outside the stadium all these fire hydrants or like water just popping up out in the street. And we're all just like,
yeah.
Well, there's no sound on. Nobody really knew what was happening. And there was sort of this slow rumble of, you would hear these people talking to each other like, so they might not be able to play in Colorado. I was like, what are you talking about? And when it did get canceled, like, I hadn't kind of scoreboard watched to see. I mean, of course, that game's going to be popular because it's Coors Field, but I hadn't really paid attention to how many people had stacks in that game. And, it turned out, like a third of the field had, a stack in that game. And so there ended up being like three of us, kind of the top three who didn't have any players in that game that were kind of fighting to win. And then, there were maybe three teams in the top 10 that had several players in that game. And we ended up, I mean, the score was not that close. Like the top couple teams beat those teams by a lot. Like, it's not like, if that game had played, we definitely would have lost. It would have definitely been close if that game had played. And just, I mean, what a time to have dumb luck on your side is what it was. But I'm glad that my team was awesome and dominated. It's not like I just barely squeaked by a team with the core stack. That would have, I mean, I would have been fine with it. I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, but I'm glad it wasn't like that exactly. But I do feel, I mean, of course, I feel terrible for the people who had that game, especially the ones that were, you obviously would have moved up, if not won the thing. So yeah, I mean, that's just dumb luck.
It's funny because people the next day when they played the Coors game, it was like 14-16, and there are people saying, "See, that game I would have won."
Yeah, that game went off. Although it was different pitchers and a different batting order and a different day, but
don't ruin the narrative.
But it would have been that like if you look at the scoring, it was that if the game had been like a 10-8 kind of game, that they probably would have won. If it had been like a 6-5 kind of game, I probably would have won. So the people that had that game, I mean, that's just a bummer.
You won $1 million. Knowing you, I don't know you, but knowing you enough, I don't think you like splurged in anything, right? I'm guessing you didn't like go out and buy it. Maybe you bought an extra scoop of ice cream, possibly a celebration.
I did. Well, so immediately after winning, I guess a lot of people were partying. I went to Ben and Jerry's, like literally went across the street to Ben and Jerry's at Planet Hollywood, and I had like a super big Ben and Jerry's. Yes,
that was the plan either way, though. If you finished first, or
right?
You finished last.
Yeah, if I'd finished last, I would have had a super large Ben and Jerry's. I don't know if I would have gotten the waffle bowl though.
It's an extra $1.50 or something.
Yeah, it's a little much. Like it's a little pricey.
The sprinkles on it and the whole deal. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm just not a splurgy person. I mean, like my lifestyle is not honestly any different now. It's obviously great to have money than not to have money, but like, yeah, I'm not hey, let's go out and buy a helicopter. I don't know how much that costs. It's probably more than $1 million. I did not make it rain anywhere. I wouldn't even know how to do that. Like, it should be like I don't think that works. Like, I have a feeling if I got a bunch of ones or whatever and went like that, it would just be like one pile would fall on the floor. I don't understand how that would work.
It would make for the greatest GIF ever if you tried this one day on like video. We'll try it on Crunch Time or something like that one of these days.
If I ever win like a live final again, I'll do that. I'll see if I can make them like spray up in the air. I have a feeling it won't work.
It would be phenomenal. And did you start taking DFS more serious after that? Like you, and eventually you obviously did content as well too, or you just basically just kind of like it was just the next day was the next day and that's that. Or at some point you said I'm going to apply myself even more to this. And how did that work?
Yeah, so like that live final was towards the end of the season. So I mean, I played a little bit more that season, but still not a ton. It was kind of the next year, 2015, where before the season, I sat down and looked at everything and figured out, okay, I'm going to play for real and try to figure out what I'm doing. Started doing just a little bit of content, but not much that year. But yeah, so 2015 is the first year I played, I'll say intentionally, and then sort of built up from there.
I believe you won $1 million that year as well too on DK. I'm pulling it up now on your RG page.
Yeah, that was August of 15, I believe.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, and I'm not stalking you, but it was a Yankee stack, was it not?
So that day actually has a wonderful story. Our fine editor, Scott, is sort of in charge of behind-the-scenes stuff at RotoGrinders. I was at a favorite local restaurant, Niffers, that day, eating a chicken sandwich, having my sweet tea. And it was like 1:00 in the afternoon, and whoever was supposed to write the Stacks article that day just didn't show up for work. And Scott texts me at like 1:00, like, can you write a Stacks article? Like, we don't have one. I was like, I guess. So I went home and I wrote this article, and I was digging through the stuff for a Stacks article and realized how great the Yankee stack was, because there was another stack, I believe it was the Blue Jays that day, that were like the chalk obvious, hey, this is the great stack. But through doing that article, I was like, I definitely have to Yankee stack in this $1 million thing. And it was, in fact, the play.
Do you remember like how you made lineups in 2013, 2014, or even go back to 2009 if you want to? How is your gameplay? What have you learned analytics-wise, I suppose? What would 2020 Cheese tell like 2010, 2015 Cheese as far as making lineups?
Well, the making lineups is different based on the level of competition. Like back in like 2009, 10, 11, when I actually did pretty well, especially in cash games, there was no creativity at all to my lineup. Like it was just straight what you would call cash game chalk, because nobody knew what that was. Like there was no content. There were no lineup builders. Just playing the obvious best baseball players and the best matchups for me was very easy to do. And there was no reason to overthink any of these things like ownership. Like it was just, you just play who's playing and in the best matchup, and you don't even have to do any math. You just click on the names and fill up your roster and hit submit. So DFS me from now back then would say, don't mess with anything, just play more. Because before the content was out there, like people were all the time playing players that weren't even in the lineup. Like it was not uncommon at all to have a head-to-head with someone that was using a starting pitcher that wasn't even pitching that day.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy to think about now.
Well, DK and FanDuel wouldn't tell you who's, they wouldn't say on the
Right.
actual site who's starting and who's not starting. I remember people were angry, like, I can't believe DK and FanDuel is telling people who's starting, who's not. And then, of course, the rare time they get it wrong, then people are mad about that also, and they can't win.
But it really was a different world. I mean, before, like you say, the sites didn't have probable pitchers listed. You would kind of have to, most people that were playing would at least look at the list of probable pitchers, but sometimes that was wrong. And, the lineups weren't everywhere. Like as soon as lineups come out, we've got them up on the site for anyone to see. Like that wasn't a thing. Like you had to kind of look around to see who was batting. So it was just kind of easy for a while, just on the basis of lack of information for everyone else. And once that edge sort of died off, it took me a long time to catch up, to figure out that, okay, everyone else now knows what they didn't used to know just because someone's telling them, or because, they've built their own model now or whatever. So there was sort of that gap in 2012 and 13 where just playing the obvious stuff kind of stopped working because everyone started figuring out what it was.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the learning curve for me. Is that was most of 2015 was kind of that learning curve of when am I supposed to just play the obvious plays and when do I need to try to be a little tricky.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're one of the few people in 2020 that is willing to play like non-stacks. Like you don't feel like you absolutely have to stack every single lineup, and of course we both understand why you're supposed to stack, and I'm doing air quotes, but aren't you, you're one of the people that you're okay. Yeah. And like, what is a stack is also an interesting conversation because it could be a mini stack too, maybe three.
My favorite Dean day of all time is when you were on Twitter going after people about a stack because someone said a 2-2-2 was a stack. And you're like,
yes.
Then where's the stack end? Do I have to 1-1-1-1-1-1-1?
It's one of my better finer Twitter moments. Yes. But yeah, it's, we talk about these terms. If we all define it differently, what's the point of talking about it?
Yeah. So like, there's just these ebbs and flows of DFS where as soon as everybody knows something and does it, that's not necessarily the thing to always do no matter what. And I think it depends so much on how you play. Like if you're doing 150 lineups every day, of course you're mostly going to stack. Like you can only build so many different ways. Like if you just randomly throw together 150 lineups from a lineup builder without stacking, like there's no way to really control what you get. But if you're just doing, 3 lineups and doing 3 max entries or single entries, I don't think you should just blindly say, I have to have 5 players from this team in every lineup. Like I still kind of want good players at every position when I can get them. So I don't just stack by default. I still usually stack more often than not, like mostly salary based. Like at some point you have to fill out a roster. And if you're playing someone that's bad, sure, I'm going to correlate them. But I don't think you just always have to stack every day, no matter what.
Yeah, and FanDuel specific, you get rewarded more for stacking, so it's a different conversation to some degree. But let's play some word association here, Dave. Rhys Hoskins?
Home run.
Matt Carpenter?
2 home runs.
KBO?
Tired.
What was it like doing content for KBO? Like,
it's so weird, man. Like I kind of love it. I just hate that it's in the middle of the night. Poor us in America. Like, why can't you play at a different time? I mean, I really like the sport. I like the league. I've liked getting to know the players. Writing about it is a mess because of the names. Like, it's so hard to get these names down. And with only 10 teams, there's only so much to say. Like, you run out of interesting things to say when there's 3 good teams, 5 good teams, and then that's the whole league. But I do really like playing. I mean, there's some good players over there, and I've enjoyed it. I played a lot early on, and I've stopped playing every day. Just simply, I'm just too tired.
Houston Astros?
Dirty cheaters.
Oh,
good ones. They would be great playing straight up. But I am upset that they're kind of going to get off the hook. Like, it was going to be great to see what happened this year if it just played out normal with all, because I mean that was kind of a slow burning fire that the first week of the season Astro games were going to be very interesting to watch. And now I hope everyone still throws on them. Not really. I actually don't, but it's not going to be as interesting now.
Did you see, baseball rules this year? One of them, they explicitly said, like, they outlawed fighting and, like, you can't intentionally – I can't remember what the framing was. They outlawed fighting and you can't throw at somebody. And it's like, wasn't that already outlawed? Like, they did it, but I think it was outlawed before.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference is. Like, we're telling you again. Yeah, for real, guys.
Double CK probation or something. I'm not really sure. Was Jose Altuve wearing a device? You know, did that ever come? You saw the clip, I'm sure. When he was coming
yes, of course he was. Like that. That's the one that just I will never be okay with that. But I don't know that other people weren't doing that too. I mean, it's terrible and I hate it, but also whoop-de-doo, what am I supposed to do about it?
As a neutral fan, is there like a more fun player to root for than Jose Altuve? Like, not really. And now I'm like conflicted. It's like, but like, I don't know. Like, he's still fun to root. I don't know. I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, as far as just skill sets that I love, like Alex Bregman was one of my favorite players, and I don't want to even like him at all anymore now. I mean, he's still good though. That's the thing. Like, these guys are not good because they saw some signals. They're good because they're good.
And you're still drafting them in season long, I saw. Again, I imagine that they took a hit as far as because people are talking about their splits or talking about how they had this big advantage at home, and you don't seem to be caring about that. At least that's what I was getting from your tweets.
Yeah, like it's not like they were great at home and terrible on the road. They're just great everywhere. They're great, and I'll still draft them, but I don't like them.
You're a Cleveland Browns fan. What's that like?
I love the Browns so much. I mean, it's weird. It's annoying when other people become Browns fans. It
was trendy last year.
Yeah, and sometime it's going to happen that we're going to win, and then everyone's going to be a fan, and it will be annoying. But I would rather us win, and it'll happen, Dean.
Word association, Ernest Biner.
I can't even do that one.
Is that it?
I love Ernest Biner so much. That's like that moment. I can't even go there, but I love Ernest Biner.
Yeah, he didn't fumble on purpose.
No, it was legitimately stripped. He didn't just like drop the ball. Like, it was an actual good intentional play. It just so awful.
Bernie Kosar, I think that's your guy, isn't it?
He is the greatest of all time. Yes, that is my one by far favorite athlete forever. Not even close. No one can ever come close.
Baker Mayfield.
I wish he wasn't on my team. I think he's great, and I think we're going to win with him. But I don't really like cockiness or even confidence, honestly. And he's got a little much of both. But I don't care. Like, it's my team. Like, there is no NFL team that I like all the people on them. Like, I would want to hang out with them. So I get over it. But I don't like. He's probably not coming over for coffee.
He's not welcome. I mean, he's not. Well,
he's welcome, but he's probably not coming. Like, I didn't send an invite. If he shows up, absolutely. I mean, he can come in.
So, geez, I'm on your RG page, and it shows like your recent play and all that. I love the fact you've been grinding esports and NASCAR. I mean, are you watching this stuff, or are you just firing? Or
actually, really and honestly, I really like the esports. I don't watch them. I don't even still have any clue how to play the games. I don't know what a Baron is, but it's a thing you do something with. I really like the lineup building process for esports, and I actually will probably keep playing if they continue. NASCAR, golf, and MMA, I wouldn't even say I'm grinding. I would say I play them because it's kind of fun. I'm not good at them. I don't even know if I like them. I mean, because I have Stevie's content for NASCAR, I'm going to play a little bit. Our golf guys are so good. I'm going to put some lineups together. Brett that does the MMA stuff. Like, I have this great content. I want to play a little bit with it, and it's giving me something to do. But those three sports are totally just a goof for me, and I don't pretend to be good at them, and I'm not.
Do you pretend to be good at hockey? Because do you know this? Where do you think you rank in the RG hockey rankings? Would you think you have any idea where you rank in that?
I mean, I guess not so many people play seriously. Am I top 30?
Out of 6,730, and of course, there's probably some people just like played 1 or 2 games or whatever, but it's probably backload of people that barely play. But you're sixth. You're sixth in the NHL hockey.
There
rankings.
are not 7 good hockey players, is what that is about.
You're sixth.
Hockey. So hockey is definitely my second favorite DFS sport. Like I've liked it for a while. Probably going back to, again, like that's the sport I played as a kid. Like that's a sport I enjoy watching. I don't think I don't know if I'm good at it. I'm okay at it. But I really think that's the matter. There aren't that many people that play a lot of hockey, but the top couple hockey players are like the gap between them and everybody else is way bigger than every other sport. And I'm not one of the top. Like I play it a lot and I like it.
Are you an Avalanche fan, or did that happen after you? Or
no, that was actually, so my last couple of years living in Denver is when the Avalanche moved to town and won the cup. And like, that was like a huge deal around town. Like that was right before the Broncos went on their Super Bowl run. Like there hadn't been like a winning team in Denver in a really long time. And the Avalanche came in and that's kind of the only local Colorado team I ever really got behind. I still do root for them.
You guys, that was, at the same time, I'm from South Florida, the Panthers. That was the year of the rat for the Panthers, and Colorado swept.
That was a great series. Van Beesbrook. I like that guy.
The Bees. Yeah. He had a B and a Z on the back of his helmet.
That series was fantastic. I actually have Game 7 on VHS in my closet over there.
Well, wait a second. That was a 4-game sweep, Colorado versus you're thinking of a different series.
Yeah, game 7 is not the way to I have one of the games from that. And I have Game 7 of the I believe it was the Red Wings. I don't remember which year is which. It was a Game 7 of an Avalanche in the conference finals. And I don't know what game of the Florida Colorado series I have, but I have it on VHS because I really I was rooting for the Avalanche, but I really like the Bees. I still do.
I feel like it was like a 1-0 game, like they lost in overtime in Game 4, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember. I wouldn't have remembered it was a sweep. I actually thought it went more than 4, but like I remember a couple of games that it seems like the Avalanche could have won like 30-2, but it was like 1-0 or 2-1 or something.
Yeah. If only there was a machine we can type this into and get an official score on.
Yeah,
what's the fun in that?
I definitely do not remember. I just remember loving that series and loving both goaltenders, but I don't actually remember any of the scores, or I didn't remember that it was a sweep.
Did you have anything fancy or cool on your goaltending helmet, or not so much?
No, I did not. I don't even know I don't know if that was a thing. I just had a helmet with a face mask.
Yeah. Well, hey, just because you have the face mask, you're good to go. I suppose.
Yeah, they recommended that.
Do you ever go into games? You go to hockey games? I think hockey's got like the best upgrade as far as watching on TV and being in the building.
The one, when I say the Avalanche was the only kind of local team I got behind, actually the University of Denver is one of the elite like hockey colleges. So we used to go to all those games. My dad actually taught at the University of Denver, so we had season tickets. There was like a couple of years in the mid 80s when they went to the Frozen Four, some really good teams. So that was kind of a thing we did pretty regularly. And still when I go back, my parents still live out there. If I can catch a DU game, I love to do that.
What about your favorite your favorite moment ever at any sporting event, any sport? What kind of pops out in your head?
So after all the nonsense of the late 80s AFC Championship games, the next year when both the Broncos and the Browns were terrible, the Browns played in Denver and had this crazy 29-27 comeback with the game-winning field goal that kind of was kicked right in front of me. That was definitely by far my favorite sporting event ever. And in a game, like the one game in a decade between those two teams, it didn't matter at all. And Bernie pulled it out. But just being there at that age, that was my favorite game.
By the way, I just Wikipedia'd it. I pulled up the fly as far as that Stanley Cup Finals, Florida versus Detroit. We're both kind of right. Florida got walloped 8-1 in Game 2. But it was a triple overtime in Game 4, and Florida lost 1-0. So okay,
that's the game I'm thinking. Like in my mind, because that game was so great, I've built it up to as that was a Game 7. That's where I like these little mind tricks we play. Like I remember that game. That's the game I have on VHS, and like it would have been so much better. If it was game 7, it would have been so much better. You played on the VCR, Dean. I have so many Browns games from the 80s and 90s on VHS.
Is there a VCR currently in your house right now?
Yeah, of course there is. What are you talking about? How do you watch movies?
That's amazing. But as far as your favorite at the game moment, I'm shocked. I thought for sure I had you pegged. I thought it was definitely going to be the Sugar Bowl, where the inevitable national championship UCF Knights took down your Auburn Tigers. That's not your favorite moment of all time?
That's my favorite game I've been to with you, Dean.
Yes.
Definitely my second favorite game was the Cam Newton championship when Auburn beat Oregon. I was at that game in Arizona, in Glendale. My wife and I went out there. And I also went that year to the SEC championship game. That Cam Newton year in Auburn was amazing. You
were I think you were, maybe you still are, a season ticket holder?
Never been a season ticket holder because it's just, if you know people here, it's pretty easy to get tickets. Everything other than, it's hard to get Iron Bowl tickets, but
yeah,
I usually go to 4 or 5 games a year. But the older I get, the more I kind of want to just go tailgate and then come home and sit in the air conditioning and watch it.
You go to the tailgate when the game starts, you leave. That's a great move.
It really is. Yeah. That's more often than not. That's what I do, especially if it's like a daytime in September game. I'm too old for this nonsense.
What are we growing up at the tailgate? What's the go-to?
So I'm very much in favor of letting everyone else do the work. I'm the show up and whatever we have guy.
Yeah.
And then I eat what I feel like I need to eat when I get home.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're not cooking, you really can't complain, I suppose. That's kind of
no, you can, but you shouldn't.
It might be frowned upon.
It's not. People know that I'm going to complain about the food.
Some more name association. Nick Saban.
Ugh.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's kind of what I was expecting. That's just Alabama across the board.
The Alabama Auburn thing is so crazy, and I really you really do have to grow to hate those people. But in all sincerity, that guy is amazing, and even being the arch enemy, I fully respect how great a coach he is. It's remarkable.
Well, Cam's playing for New England this year. It's presumably he's.
That's going to be.
Are you bullish? Are you excited about this?
I am. I don't know if I'm bullish, but I'm wildly interested. I'm definitely going to be tuning in.
I feel like there's a wide range of outcomes. I can see him being a top 7 quarterback, and I can see him be just a broken down old 30 and just bad skill players too. And
it's hard to tell with a guy like that. Is it all gone physically? Did he just get beat up, or is it? Maybe he has another year in him. And if he does, it would be awesome to see what they could do.
But then you got to root for New England.
I'm fine with that. Bill Belichick's first job was coaching the Browns, his first head coaching job. So I have always and will always be a Belichick fan.
Yeah, and he failed there, I guess,
right over there that's signed to Dave Potts from Bill Belichick.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that through the mail or something, or you actually met him?
Oh yeah, no, I have hundreds of autograph cards that I would just mail in. That's a thing.
What else do you have?
I have so much Brown stuff. I have every item of Browns memorabilia you could ever think of. But
what about the Cavs? Were you excited when the Cavs won the title? Did you care about basketball much?
Yes. So basketball is my least favorite of the major sports. So the Cavs are my least favorite of the Cleveland teams.
Yeah.
So it was the Browns would be their own thing. The Indians, me and Tony went to a World Series game, the Indians Cubs year. An Indians World Series would be huge. The Cavs, it's fantastic. I'm so glad Cleveland won, but because it's basketball, it didn't have the same impact for me. I just don't care that much about NBA.
Were you at the, I was going to call it the Rajay Davis game. I guess it's not the Rajay Davis game, but that was so awesome when he hit the homer and it was 10-10 or something like that. And it went extra innings. It was game 7. And I was watching this the other day. Strangely enough, I ran into it on YouTube. And I'm oh, this is VHS. All this stuff happened. Yeah, it was. Yeah. You still have it on VHS somewhere.
No, we were at game 2, so early on.
I don't remember
that week. So that was the year the Cavs got the ring celebration and raised the flag one night, and the next night was game 2. Game 1 of the World Series in Cleveland, and the Cavs celebration was the same night. So that was the time to be in Cleveland.
How many parks have you been to, and what's your favorite park?
That's this common question, and I don't really have a favorite park. They're all kind of pretty great nowadays. So it's more what do I recall from the experience?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm biased towards Cleveland just because I like it. I like the new Braves Park. Those are kind of my go-tos. But Camden was pretty fun.
It still holds up, right? It's still super impressive for being
I don't really like. I
1990.
prefer like something that feels just slightly older. Like I don't need like Wrigley old, but like the brand new ones are almost too brand new.
You want it to be lived in a little bit first.
Yeah, but I mean, really, I don't care really. Like they're all pretty good.
The Atlanta one, I went to Atlanta, was it last year, a year or two ago, whatever it was? Like time is a flat circle. I don't remember when things happened, but I just remembered, like you said, it felt really new, and they had all these different things to do besides watch baseball. It was just an interesting idea. Like here's a zip line if you don't like baseball, and I get why they're doing that. Obviously, the other part is I noticed a ton of advertisements, like which I get also, but more so than any other ballpark. Everywhere you look, it's I guess Coke was. There's everything. There's advertisements everywhere in that ballpark.
There are advertisements, yeah, and like I think it's worse in Atlanta because like Coke is headquartered in Atlanta and Chick-fil-A is headquartered there, and like Home Depot. There's like these companies that are like they pretty much own Atlanta, and their stuff is just everywhere. But at least it's Coke, Yeah, it's not like Huggies. Welcome to Atlanta.
Yeah, and I watched the freeze was pretty cool. Watching the freeze in the outfield.
That's great. Like almost every team's kind of random seventh inning thing is pretty cool these days. Like I love the like the hot dog race in Milwaukee and the president's race. Like all those little things are funny. The freeze in Atlanta is this dude who races someone. He gives him like a half a field head start and then burns around. It's great.
Word association, Jabroni.
Chris Tillman. Yes. I love that word so much. It's so glorious. That's just one of those things. Like once I heard that word, I was like, where have I been my whole life? Like, how did other people know this word for 5 years and no one ever said it around me? Like, how did I not know this?
I remember when you discovered it and you started writing it in your article all the time. Do you know the origin of Jabroni?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I've done all kinds of research now, but yeah, at the time, like, I didn't know what it was, and it showed up in a comment one day, and the next day I was like, that word is amazing. What does that mean? And so yeah, it was probably in the article every day for 2 months, and I don't feel bad about it at all.
Yeah, apparently the Rock popularized it. It's a spinoff of the word jobber, which is a term in wrestling, basically a guy that's going out there to lose. And
speaking of the Rock, he's one of my new all-time favorite people who absolutely is going to be president of the United States one day and should be. Definitely,
you think so? I mean,
absolutely, for sure.
If I can give you like 5-1 odds on that, like right now, you would wager on it, or 10. I don't know what the odds would be. And I know he's kind of sort of floated it out there, and people sort of like, that's been teased, or maybe people have asked him about it. But you think this is like a legit thing he's going to pursue?
In my mind, yes. I don't know how much of it is just this made up, and I think it would be funny, and I wanted to. I don't even think it would be funny. I think he would be actually fantastic, and I'm all for it. And in my future, The Rock is president.
He seems like a great dude. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know.
He's definitely a great dude.
Yeah, it's I think
he would win. Not a jabroni.
I feel like The Rock will win. It's funny because The Rock seems like a really, really good dude, and I don't like any of his movies. Really, it's just not for me. I don't know. I haven't seen a movie where that was like. I'm not a big fan of the Fast and the Furious. That's just not my alley. But
I mean, Jumanji is pretty amazing.
I haven't seen Jumanji. Should I see Jumanji?
You probably should. Yeah, amazing might be too strong of a word, but you should see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that was I don't think I even saw the original one with Robin Williams. I just never saw any of the Jumanjis. So.
Yeah, that one was a while ago.
That was.
I probably have it on VHS somewhere.
You probably. It's time to do an episode of Hoarders in your house and get rid of the VHSs and get rid of the VCRs. But I actually saw you had a Jumanji take on Twitter, and I think it was kind of built into a take that you had. You did not like Uncut Gems, if I was reading it correctly.
No, and I know there's been a lot about it. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah,
and I love movies. I love pretty much every movie. It's very hard for me to go to a theater and not love it. I love some pretty bad movies, but that one, I barely made it. I was just sitting there like, I guess I'll just finish my popcorn, but this is awful. What is happening? I don't even understand what the point of that was. Just weird.
What are the good terrible
Kevin
movies you
Garnett
like?
was great. I'm glad
Garnett
that
was
he
good.
did his
KG was
thing,
good.
Yeah.
So was Francesa in like his 2 scenes.
Yeah. No, I did not care for that movie.
Give me like the terrible movies you know are terrible, but you still love.
Well, that's the thing. There aren't even any terrible movies. Like the movies that I love, I'm so sure that they're great. Elizabethtown.
Okay, I
I love that movie. I've never yet met anyone else who likes it. I think it's amazing.
Like Jude Law or something. Who's in Elizabethtown?
It's not Jude Law. What's his name in real life? I don't know any of the actors' names in real life.
Okay,
you'll know him. He's one of those guys. Kirsten Dunst is in it, but the guy is tell me his
Orlando
name.
Bloom.
Yeah, Bloom. I love romantic comedies from the 90s. And they weren't bad. I mean, they were great. A couple days ago, we watched The American President. That's a top 10 all time.
That's good. That's a good movie.
Yeah. All of those sort of 90s-ish rom-coms I just love.
Like Freddie Prinze Jr. movies?
So those are the ones that I would say are bad movies, but I love them. Yes.
Summer Catch?
Yeah, like those and, 10 Things I Hate About You. Like I love those movies, and I don't pretend that they're amazing, but I will watch those all day, every day. Any movie with Matthew McConaughey is great.
She's All That, Can't Hardly Wait. I'm still running through like the But what's your favorite Matthew McConaughey movie? What comes to mind?
Oh boy, we watched one. The names elude me. How to Lose a Guy in 10 days.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. There you go.
I can't think of the name of the one I watched 2 weeks ago because we watched it right after we watched Me, You, and Dupree, which that's the one that stuck in my head.
With Owen Wilson?
Yeah, that movie is fantastic. The one with Terry Bradshaw as his dad and the girl from Sex and the City. I don't do titles very well.
Yeah, I remember that one vaguely, but I think it just kind of came and went really, really quickly. But
it's pretty good.
Oh, it's you recommend that one?
I recommend everything with Matthew McConaughey. You
said American President top 10. What's like top 5?
Yes. So definitely top 1 is The Dark Knight. Actually that's going to be coming up in the next 2 or 3 days. My daughter and I have been rocking through superhero movies because she's trying to watch all the Marvel movies because we got the Disney Plus. So we've been watching those like in a row. And then we did Batman Begins 2 nights ago. So Dark Knight will be coming up the next time my wife is not watching TV with us is Dark Knight. She does not care for that one.
She's not a Christopher Nolan fan.
It freaks her out. The Joker kind of creeps her out. I understand.
It's so good. That's one of the best opening scenes in movies.
Oh,
it's right away you're in. You're fully invested.
That movie, that's definitely by far my favorite movie. And it's one of those I have like this life moment with. Like we were in Colorado visiting my family. My dad and I went to see it at midnight.
Wow.
So I told my dad I want to see the movie. And he's like, my dad is old. He'll probably watch this. He's like at least 50. But we went and saw it at midnight and this theater we used to go to as a kid, the Continental. And that was awesome. And that opening scene, like as soon as I was like, I'll probably be tired. Like it's probably silly to go to a movie at midnight. And that like 2 seconds in the movie, I was like, this is the greatest movie of all time. And I remember the next day at the airport, I was like walking around in a daze, like that is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Like I can't wait to get home and go see that movie again. It's crazy how good it was.
Let's say hello to your father. Hi, Mr. Cheese.
Hello. I don't know if he goes by Mr. Cheese. He does now. Yeah. I made him listen to some. I offered him the opportunity to listen to some podcast of me talking about Korean baseball. So this will probably be better than that.
How long did he last? He
listened to the whole thing. I don't know if he caught all the names, but he's must be a fan of Sung Bum Na at this point.
Throw out the trilogy for Batman. What's the second best Christopher Nolan movie? You got The Prestige, Memento, Inception, Interstellar.
Yeah, so I watched Inception yesterday.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, and I love it, but I'm still not smart enough for that movie. Like I still can't quite. I just still quite don't get it. Like I know it's great, but it's still ahead of my time. Like I need a few more years. I would put Memento.
Yes.
And that's when I can't watch it over and over. Like I watch it every couple of years. The Dark Knight I could watch every day and be fine. But Memento, just as far as like thinking about the first time you saw it, and then if you see it sporadically, that would be the next one for me.
Remember Sammy Jenkins? Yeah, 50 First Dates. Adam Sandler stole the concept. I'm very angry about this for no particular reason. What's the best baseball movie? What's that?
Best baseball movie.
Yeah.
Probably
There's a correct
Natural.
answer here, just so you know, but so be prepared for.
I was going to say The Natural.
Oh, okay. I mean, sure, I suppose. Yeah.
What's
I would
the
say,
correct?
well, I like Field of Dreams, but I think the correct answer is League of Their Own. I think that's the correct answer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think there's a correct answer. Like that would probably be the top of the Family Feud board. And then I would go The Natural, Field of Dreams, and then Major League.
Some people would say Sandlot, I'm sure. I think Sandlot's a little bit overrated. Don't tell anybody I said that, but
yeah, that I'm kind of with you. I have one of the shirts, of course, but I mean, yeah.
You like it because it reminds you of your childhood. That's all it is.
Right.
It reminds you of innocence. You know, it's not that great when you see it as an adult. We can agree on Ex Machina.
Oh my goodness, love that movie. Yeah, like that could be in my top 5 of all time.
Yeah, why does nobody talk about that movie? It's just sort of lost in history, but it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's sort of like I was like lucky that I caught it in theaters. It was just one of those like one afternoon I just really wanted to go to a movie and I didn't know what to see. I'd never even heard of it. I was like, what is this movie? I guess I'll see it. And I was just like, I was like me and 2 other people in the theater and I wasn't expecting much. And I loved it. Like it was one of those, I sat there in the theater for like 20 minutes afterwards. Just like, that was amazing. If they played again, I'm just staying.
Yeah, can you remember the last time where you've been in a theater where somebody applauded at the end? Is that still a thing people do? I caught
it actually happens here a fair amount. We're pretty old fashioned here.
You're in the South. They're polite there, I guess. But it doesn't happen very often where I'm at. But Parasite, I saw Parasite, and like half the crowd applauded, which I was like, oh, that's interesting. People are applauding for a movie. I
mean, usually I go out of my way to go to movies when there's not going to be anyone there. So there's usually not much. But if it's, like at the last, I don't know, I remember a couple of recent superhero movies, there was some applauding going on. And definitely in like anytime there's one of those, Star Wars or Avengers type movie, there's those fans that are going to clap.
Do you cosplay when you're going to see those?
What's that?
Do you cosplay when you're going to see those movies?
Personally, not so much. No, there's definitely some of it going around, but no, I just wear my t-shirt and my pants.
What about the Netflix? What are we watching on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that? Anything we're kind of we can recommend to people?
I finally got around to season 3 of Ozark, which was very good. It was one of those, like, I wanted to watch season 3. I watched season 1 and 2 and my wife was out of town, so she never saw it and like she would like it. So I didn't want to watch it when she was around because we'll want to watch from the beginning at some point. So I had to kind of squeeze it in when I could. You know what I just watched last weekend was Master of None with Aziz Ansari.
I've seen the first season. It's very good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I'd never heard of that. And I just, what should I watch? And I thought it was great. Enjoyed that. And then I'm just now restarting, and I've never watched all the way through in order Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah,
so that's gonna be my next.
With Parks and Rec is the first season's not very good. I don't know how to recommend that to people when I say like, look, it's a really, really good show. The first season's not very good. I don't know if you skip the first season. You know that they changed the cast around and they kind of figured it out. But when you rewatch it, do you watch season 1?
Well, so that's what I'm going to do now, just because I never ever once watched the thing start to finish. It was kind of like I would just watch it here and there, and it was on, I'd see it. So I'm going to go ahead and watch it from the beginning.
You're on an Aziz Ansari kick, apparently.
Yeah, I guess maybe that was subconsciously why I started that next. I wasn't even thinking about him being in it. But yeah, I'm a fan.
Favorite character on The Office?
That's such a hard question, isn't it? Like, I don't feel like there's an answer to that. I mean, I guess I would say there couldn't be the show without Dwight.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd call him my favorite character. I mean, I think Jim's my favorite character. But some of everyone's so great. I don't even know what to say.
What about non-core 4?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, probably Stanley.
Stanley's great.
But like Stanley and Kevin are the two that I think of sort of, non-main characters.
That's pretty much my wheelhouse as well too. I might throw Creed in the conversation, but I don't know if he gets enough reps.
Yeah, it's like he comes in for like 2 seconds every couple episodes. You're just like, that was amazing.
Well, it's quantity versus quality with Creed, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose that's kind of sort of how it works. You recommended to me, and I haven't done it yet. I failed you, and I failed the people on Twitter because I was told I should watch it. Sell me on watching Friday Night Lights.
Oh, you still haven't done Friday Night Lights?
No, it's one of them
my
that just sort of fell to the
Man,
cracks.
season 1 to me is maybe my favorite like TV drama series. And I love the whole high school football thing. Like, I went to high school football games even like before my son was on the team a few years ago. Like, I just love that whole atmosphere. So I was sort of into that thing, but like something about the story of that and the acting is great. I don't know. I think that's a must watch TV drama for someone like you that watches the kind of stuff you watch. I think it's crazy that you haven't seen that. And please see it. Don't let us down.
It just sort of happens, it wasn't intentional. Just sort of, sometimes
I have it on DVD. Actually, that's how much I like it. Not even
so
the
funny.
VHS.
Like, I used to, like, when I go to somebody's house, I used to be able to judge them by looking at the CDs in their wall, or I can judge them by looking at the DVDs in their wall. Now I don't know how to judge anybody because these aren't displayed anymore.
Can I borrow your phone? See what's in your music folder. I don't even know how you know what they watch. Like I see your Netflix history.
Go to your Netflix queue, I think, is what you're supposed to look at. Okay. That's how you're supposed to judge somebody. But that's a pretty
even
big
that.
step.
Yeah, I don't know, because you kind of put stuff on there. If you see what you watch, like a lot of times you start something and don't finish it because it's not very good. I don't think that's even fair.
Yeah, and Netflix sometimes like will say, "Well, you like this, so you must like that." And it's like, well, your machine is broken. That does not make any sense.
Yeah, there are things that really want you to like that aren't very good.
Why are you trying to push this on me? You were watching Westworld, and that's Dave. There's very few shows that like once I make the commitment and say I'm going to watch this, I almost always power through, like watch the whole thing from start to finish. Like that's it. Once I'm in for like a couple episodes, and I watched the very first season of Westworld, I thought it was really well done. It looked excellent. I just didn't care. And I'm like, I don't care about this, and I'm going to stop watching. Should I go back and start watching season 2 for Westworld? Or
that's actually a good way to put it, kind of how I feel about it. Like the whole concept is incredible, and it was even well done. Like it's smart. I love everything about it, except you don't really grab on to like the characters. Like you don't sort of empathize with this certain, you're not rooting for anyone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is something missing in that aspect. Like I like it, and I'll probably watch it again, but that's not I think you just have to see it.
And I know Aaron Paul joined the season 3, and I love Aaron Paul, Breaking Bad, of course. And even then I was like, maybe I'll get around to it. It's kind of sort of on the list, but it's way on the bottom.
And like I'm not quite done with season 3. I've watched the first 3 or 4 episodes, and I know it's really good, but I don't just love it.
Do you remember when you could not play DFS in Alabama and you used to take your road trips to Georgia and go to a coffee house all the time? Do you miss that coffee house?
I do. It's not that much different than like my days as a traveling musician. It's like I think back on this time. It was only a couple of years ago, and like, what was my life for 2 years? Pretty much every day, I got up and wrote an article that took me like 5 hours, and then drove to another state to enter lineups. And then drove back and like did a show like every day for like 6 months for 2 years. Like, what was I doing? And yet I kind of in a weird way miss it. Like,
yeah,
there's some, I mean, I did kind of enjoy my weird little routine.
Do you think the waitresses like whatever happened? Remember that guy?
That guy, yeah.
You think they're like, whatever happened to that guy?
So I went in, I don't know, a few months ago. I was over there. It was probably in like January, February. And I mean, they still remembered me. Only, one of the guys was like, "Hey, Dave." I was like, "Yeah, he knows who I am." And some of them called me Mr. Potts because they weren't quite sure if I was old or not, But
just in case.
Like, I feel like I could still go in there and it'd still be like a norm situation. Like, "Hey, Dave's back."
Couldn't you say, "Give me the usual," and then somebody will remember?
I actually switched it up. So no, I did. They had a pretty good variety of interesting drinks. So now almost anyone there would tell you that I want one of the big cookies. Yeah, but as far as the drink, I kind of would switch that up.
So I feel like you're kind of like a real world Yelp. Like, when you Yelp, you see the best restaurants in a certain area. And I actually used you once for that. I think I was in Atlanta, and I was like, "Hey, what should we get in Atlanta?" And you gave me this recommendation. If I just fire a city at you, can you tell me like the best place to eat? Like Athens, Georgia.
Well, so a couple problems with that. Sort of, yes. Although a lot of them are probably out of business now.
Oh, okay.
So, because it was so long ago. And as far as I would be better at telling you what coffee house to go to or where to find the movie theater.
Yeah.
or when there used to be bookstores, I could tell you where the Barnes and Noble was. But when I was traveling, I had no money, so I couldn't really eat at good restaurants. Like I could maybe tell you where the Chili's was if I had a real good show. So but I could probably, to a lot of cities, I could probably point you to a good pizza place. But yeah, most of the places I remember probably don't exist anymore, which is a problem.
There's one city I think you can help me out with. If I so happen to land in Carbondale, Missouri, is there any place you recommend for me?
That's in Illinois.
Oh, Illinois. Close enough.
Yeah. So where our friend Eric Crane lives, one of the greatest barbecue places in the world. With go get ribs. You should drive to Carbondale. It's actually Murfreesboro right next to Carbondale just to get ribs. And there's also a pizza place. There's a couple pizza places there, but I am a fan of Quattro's in Carbondale. I used to play gigs there quite a bit, and there's like a radio station there that I used to do like whatever you call live on air shows for the local station. And I would stay with the DJ there, and he would take me to all these places all over town. So I feel like I know how to eat in Carbondale, and I do. And I recommend it.
I think baseball has some of the best names, just great baseball names. Is there any sort of names that kind of – I'll throw a few your way, like Mickey Morandini, Casey Candell, Coco Crisp, Razor Shines, Boof, Bonzer. And you have a good time with this, of course, in your articles as well, too. Like, what's like your favorite baseball name? Do you have a couple, like on layaway?
I mean, I would have definitely said Coco Crisp. Like that's pretty classic. I always, olden times, I was like Boog Powell.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Mookie doesn't get appreciated. When it was Mookie Wilson, I feel like we realized that Mookie was an awesome name. But now, because Mookie Betts is so good, I don't feel like we stop and think about what a great name Mookie is. I don't know. It's kind of one of those, I know it when I hear it at the moment when I'm writing an article, a name will strike me that has never struck me as interesting before. I try to change it up. I don't really have a usual favorite name.
Before the show, I Googled like best baseball names, and I ended up in a site called Ranker. And Dave, there are some phenomenal names. I will share them with you.
Please do.
I mean, and we might have to use the censor on some of these. Rusty Kuntz is number one. No surprise there. First base coach these days. Johnny Dickshot. Who can forget Johnny Dickshot? He was a left fielder back in the day. Dick
I feel like I know what kind of list this is already. But.
Cannonball Titcomb. Like, who are these guys? Jack Glasscock. There's a guy named Bud Weiser. Bud Weiser.
I never knew who that was, but I've seen him on lists. Like, how do we not hear more about that name? Oil Can Boyd. I don't know if I realize that's a nickname, but I like that name.
Yeah, he was the next one on the list. I'm just kind of working my way down. Little Stoner. There's somebody named Little Stoner. I don't know how this. Buttercup Dickerson, but there you go. I don't know who voted on this, but Catfish Hunter. That's a real name. There you go.
Yeah, and actually someone good.
I want to end on a high note, but I don't know why we ended on that. But that's kind of sort of where we're at. I've kept you long enough for sure. Oh, there's one thing I do want to point out. What your wife is doing, and yes, Jeff El Jefe, what he did for her as well, which is amazing. Tell me what that was. As far as is it a charity she's working with, or her own personal charity?
Yeah, absolutely. So she started an organization called Redeeming Grace. She spent a bunch of years working in rehabs. And would see people go through rehab and then sort of relapse once they got back into the real world and didn't have any support and wasn't able to get a job. So she is starting a home for women that's going to be a kind of a next step after rehab, or for women coming out of prison, where she's going to help them with job skills training, classes on things like budgeting and parenting, and basically get them, once you get through rehab, get them to where they can actually sustain a livable wage job and, make connections to society. So it's kind of, second way house is not the word, but that's sort of what it is, a next step for women. And she's opening a house. It'll be late this year, early next year. We have the house now. But so we've been obviously taking donations for a while. And yeah, Jeff El Jefe, most of you know, he donated, I don't know what percentage it was, but $15,000 from the live finals he was at to the ministry. It was just amazing, out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it. I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, I woke her up. I was like, you need to go just go on the computer and look around. That was awesome. Several DFS people have donated, which has been awesome. But like, I kind of always say it's kind of a weird life that like, I'm just sitting around writing about baseball, and like my wife is actually making the world a better place.
She's changing lives. You're changing lives too in your own way. That is awesome.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I wanted to get in. Jeez. Top 5 comedians. You always read about Stephen Wright. You always read about Mitch Hedberg, I think is one of your guys.
Stand-up comedy it makes the world go around. I would probably put Hedberg first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but I love him so much. Stephen Wright, of course, I love Seinfeld. I kind of started liking comedy a little late, so kind of the classics I don't really love. I would say Carlin is my favorite of sort of the older classic comedians.
Best.
So I'd put him on my list. And then there's a lot of kind of newer up and coming people that I really like. I would put Nate Bargatze as 5th on my list.
Say that again?
Nate Bargatze.
I don't think I'm aware of this person. Are they on? Do they have a Netflix special, or they're on YouTube?
Yeah,
or something?
he does. He's got a You look him up. It's kind of that. I don't know. Do you know? It's kind of in the Mike Birbiglia vein of storytelling.
Okay.
I like him a lot. I would put him on the list.
All right, so I got to watch his special.
But that leaves Dmitry Martinov. I don't know.
I could see you really liking Dmitry Martin. He's got that dry sort of like.
That's the kind of stuff I like. So.
Yeah, Dmitry Martin's got some fun. He's got the visuals, right? Dmitry Martin.
Yeah, and then when he does like the music stuff, he's great.
He's an interesting character for sure. Dave, the number 6 NHL player in the world, the number 11 esports player in the world, for real.
Which proves to you that there are only 6 good hockey players and 10 good esports players.
What are you grinding this week? You're gonna go after that millionaire maker in PGA?
I'll do like 3 or 4 entries again, totally as a goof. I do not even think that I have any idea what's going on. I'm much more into esports right now, which is a dumb thing to say out loud, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but I really am.
Is there any chance I can get you to come on before baseball season starts and talk, as we get more and more information and, do a little preview of some sort?
Yeah, maybe like the week before, once we'll have an idea of what the rosters are going to look like and have some more info on what they're planning to do with the pitching staff. So I would love to do that.
I much appreciate your time, Dave. Tell the people your socials if they want to. Well, you're going to be a future on Cameo. We're going to make that happen. We're definitely going to get you on the cameo.com, which we just learned of about an hour and a half ago.
I will be on DFS Cameo. Like if you need me to give your friend a shout out for not something goofy like, hey, it's my birthday, but like this guy loves Thursdays or that kind of thing. I would definitely do that.
You have like 150 characters to tell the person, basically, this is what I'd like you to do if you can make it work. That's essentially how. So they can't tell you too many details for what it's worth. And you just got to make it your own, I suppose. But if they want to hit you up on Twitter, what is it? That Dave Potts 2?
Dave Potts 2.
There's another one?
I don't actually know if there is. I just know at the time I made a Twitter when I didn't even know what Twitter was. It wouldn't let me do Dave Potts 1 or Dave Potts. I was like, Dave Potts, that's my name. And that was the one. Why don't we recommend Dave Potts 2? I was like, let's do that. Sounds great.
The sequel was always better than the original. Have you since figured out what TweetDeck is? I know you were tweeting about that.
Oh my goodness.
What TweetDeck is now?
I mean, know what it is. Sure. It's on my laptop. Oh. I don't know what to do with it. Like, to me, it's more confusing than just Twitter. Like when I want something, like I just search for what I want on Twitter. Like I don't just scroll Twitter looking for stuff. I'm like, this is what I'm doing right now. Let me just search this. Like I get why TweetDeck is great. I think I'm just not smart enough for it. Kind of like Inception, the movie. Like maybe one year I'll be like, I understand that movie and I get TweetDeck, but I'm not there yet.
TweetDeck is the spinning top or something. There's some sort of correlation to that, but you're missing out. So you got to get a tutorial or something like that. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life.
Maybe one of these people that needs me to do an on Cameo will trade me for a tutorial on TweetDeck.
Dave, I thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciate it. And one of the nicest guys in the industry, super, super humble. You'd never know you're like the greatest baseball DFS player of all time. Anything else you want to say to the people before we step aside and get out of here?
Thanks for having me, Dean. If anyone actually listened to this whole thing, thank you for listening. And I'm sorry it's over then, I guess, if you're still here. I can't imagine anyone's still here like, wow, this is amazing. But I love doing this. I'm thrilled to be in the space, and I hope you enjoy the stuff we do.
I'm thrilled to have you, and I apologize for keeping you long. I yammer a bit much, I suppose, but there's a lot I had to ask. There's a lot I wanted to know. The people want to know as well, for sure. With that, he is Cheese is Good, Dave Potts. I was Dean. Thanks for listening to the Morning Grind. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're out of here. Holler.